All right. So, good morning again. We should be back with 1.2. It'll start off with what the work of managers are. And so, important to understand that you have managers and non management employees. Managers are going to be the people that really deal with the top four functions of management on a regular basis: planning, organizing, staffing, and controlling. You're looking at staffing, organizing, planning. I'm sorry. I left out the first one. Controlling is the disciplinary function, and managers won't always deal with that. So you're looking at going back up there, you're looking at planning, organizing, staffing, and then leading, which some people will call directing, which is where I was going to get tongue tied on you. The controlling is the disciplinary action, and though managers deal with it, some, not all managers will deal with that. And a lot of departments are going to send disciplinary actions to human resource department. But so we're talking about that managers are those people that deal with those top four um, management functions on a regular basis. Levels of management, you have supervisors. And so when we talk about it, supervisors will be your upper level of managers. They're managers who mainly take care of the management functions of planning and directing of work employees. From there, you're going to have executives, which are your top level managers, and then your middle level management, which are basically going to be your frontline managers. So if you looked at an organizational structure, your executives, if we stay with Walmart just because it's something that everybody knows, your executives are going to be those people that are working in the corporate office at Walmart. They don't have much interface in the day-to-day actual retail operations, but they're the main decision makers. Your middle managers are going to be your store management personnel. Okay, the actual store manager and assistant manager, they're going to be a lot more of the actual person in charge of the actual store and the implementation of the store policies. And then your supervisors would actually be like shift management. So again, if you thought about a McDonald's or a fast food restaurant, the executives would be your owners, store management would be middle management, and then shift managers would be supervisors. Everybody else would be your kind of working employees that are there to do the actual grind of the business. So here we're looking at a pyramid structure of what that would be. Again, you can see that there's going to be a larger quantity of supervisors within the company. And then as you move up to that next level, there'll be fewer of them. Again, thinking about shift managers, if we talked about a place where uh, most of you have experience working with management of some point, uh, supervisors again would be those shift managers. You can tell that you got four or five of them. You got a morning shift manager, mid shift manager, day shift manager. Middle management, again, assistant managers and your store manager. You may have two assistants, one store manager. A lot of business will have one manager and one assistant. And then the executives, again, would be the owners, or sometimes you'll have district management, manager that runs multiple locations. Just looking at a graph here about how managers spend the time. And so looking at those five management uh, capacities, you'll see that executives spend a lot of time in planning and organizing. They're thinking about the ways to make the business successful and how to implement those plans. Middle managers spend a lot of time in the actual leading aspect. They do spend planning and organizing. They still got to figure out how the plan's going to be implemented and how you're going to organize staff to do it. But their actual staffing hours, they don't spend a lot of time in that. It's pretty structured. Most of the businesses are going to have on a certain number of volume. For example, when I was a district manager for S&K Menswear, my stores were based on something. If they did $25,000 in volume, they had 140 hours. So if you think about that broken into management, 95 hours would go to management. And on that volume, they really only had hours available for part-time employment. Higher volume stores, 3 or 4 million. You know, again, we would have probably sat out there and that would have had three or four assistant managers, one store manager with a lot more. So again, Basically just saying the larger volume that it is, the more management you're going to have. But here we're looking at the functions of that manager, and a lot of their time of middle management is spent in leading that staff. And then you'll see supervisors spend a lot of time leading, but they spend a lot more time dealing with the disciplinary actions. All right. It's just important to understand those directives on discipline come down from executives to middle management, and then middle management puts out a directive for supervisors to hold staff accountable for that. And so when you're looking at it, a lot of times when you're first employed, you guys always get mad at your supervisors because they're holding you accountable. But actually, those directives, they're just doing their job because their manager's telling them they need to do that. And that manager's just doing their job because the executives at the office are telling them that they need to do that. So again, with 1.2, how is the work of supervisors different from the work of middle managers? Really, what you're going to do is go back to this graph, and then you're going to summarize it. So as I did before, executives, they spend most of their time in what two management categories? Middle managers looking, where do they spend most of their time? A lot more in leading, still a lot of time spent in planning. And as we go to supervisors, they spend a vast majority of their time in that leading and controlling disciplinary action area. All right, and that'll be 1.2. Ooh, really? That was a continuation. Sorry. I'll go into 1.2 right now. 1.2 was the history of management. I'm not going to spend a lot of time back here, but if we look at the history of management, uh, early 1800s, we went to an industrial revolution. Before that, we were a farm-based economy. So, really the only level of management you had was farmers sitting there telling the employees on the farm where to work. Once you had the industrial revolution and you had companies that actually started to produce products, then you had management, the management process that came into play to help those companies to accomplish their goals. So the Industrial Revolution changed the basic way they work because we added machine power to replace human power. Rather than the individual craftsmen, we were able to produce larger machineries to produce bigger equipment. And the result is that we had a greater production scale, which involved management needing to ensure that certain aspects of that were going to be accomplished. So you had what we called teams, where managers would have employees underneath them to accomplish certain aspects of the business. And I'm going to skip that. All right, we're going to go to theories of management. It's important to understand that when within management and the way you lead, there's going to be basic theories of management. One is classical management. It basically has to do with procedures that the company is going to use to help streamline the management process. You have administrative management, which identifies the most effective practices of businesses and tries to implement them within other businesses, and that's where your true leadership. And then behavioral management has to do a lot with more of the marketing side of it, understanding employee motivation and customer motivation. QTM, which is a total quality management process, but quality management has to do with ensuring that the quality of the product stays at the level that the company intends. One of the problems is we produce more products. The standard or the quality standard of the company tends to diminish sometimes just because of the large amount of products that are being produced. One role of management is ensuring that the integrity of the product that the company is producing stays at a high level. So quality management has to do with that. So basically, looking at that, we're going to go ahead and summarize what the differences are in those 3 or 4 theories, which they're going back and they're saying classical management, administrative management, behavioral management, and then quality management. So again, classical management, we got there. Administrative management, understanding that behavioral management, understanding that human behavior has an impact in the work environment, and then quality management, talking about the quality of the products that are being produced. All right, and that should summarize 1.2.